Okay, sorry about that. I'm technically challenged. All right, I'd like to welcome our candidates for state representative for the 140th district. Again, we drew numbers first. Green Party candidate, Mr. Robert, I asked him how to say his last name, Debbaut? Okay, Robert Debbaut. And then we have Republican candidate Lynn Morris, who's also our incumbent, and then Democratic candidate Jim Billedo. So we're going to start off with our opening remarks. You have 2 minutes, and we will start with Mr. Debbaut.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the headliner and the Senior Center for offering us this opportunity. I'm especially glad about this as a Green Party candidate because most recently in Maryland, the Green Party candidate tried to join a debate and was escorted by police off the dais, even though she's on the ballot. Green Party worked to get on the ballot here in Missouri by raising 25,000 signatures, and we've done so on the platform of peace, people, and planet, and my own personal platform of education, environment, and equality. I'm a businessman now, but I'm a former educator, and I believe in the goals of education. The state formula is disastrously underfunded for education in the state of Missouri, over $400 million underfunded. In this particular school district, $905 per student underfunded. That's a disaster. Our greatest resource is our children, and that's our resource for our future, to create more jobs, to keep them here locally. I think that's important, that it's notable that we're behind on education, and it's something that we should address in the legislature. One of my goals would be then to work bipartisanly to find like-minded Republicans and Democrats to work with me to find a way to solve that budget shortfall. It seems to me that we've had in this country a folly of the two-party system. So many other countries, including Canada, our neighbor to the north, have multiple parties that represent people. You yourselves know people that are not just one way or the other, right? They're in between. All people are different. We need to have that open forum where more people can talk about these issues. It's not a wasted vote to vote third party. It's democracy. This is a very conservative district, I realize that. But people that are conservative should want to conserve their resources, their monetary resources, to serve them well, and their natural resources. And I think that's an important part of my campaign. Politics is not a team sport. We should vote for the individual, and I ask you for your vote. Thank you very much.
Mr. Morris.
Thank you very much tonight. I tell you what, thanks for coming. I want to thank Ozark Headliner and the Senior Center for allowing us to be here tonight, my family and friends, and everyone that I represent. I am honored to have served you for 4 years, and I'm hoping to serve you for another 2 years to continue the work that I've done the first 4 years. I'm extremely proud of my record, and hope we can get to talk about some of the record tonight that we've actually done. I work both on both sides. I'm probably one of the ones that on my party that gets along the best with the other party, and I've actually helped pass some of their bills and brought some of their bills forward, and it's not usual as doing business up there in Jefferson City. I'm proud to be the vice chair of both health and mental health and health insurance, which is a big deal because, as we know, with Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act falling apart, we have got to have plans for insurance in the state of Missouri. And we need someone with a background that has to do with healthcare, masters in healthcare administration, people that have done this all their life that can help the citizens in this state. I'm also vying for the chairman for social services. That's our largest spending committee of the whole entire state budget, and hope to get that nod here in November. So I really hope that we can have a great debate tonight. Looking forward to it, and I thank everyone for being here tonight.
And Mr. Billedo.
I'm Jim Billedo, and I've been a resident of Christian County for since 1980. Been married to my wife Susan for over 44 years, and we have 2 grown sons that went to school here in Ozark. I have 3 grandchildren that are currently in the school here in Ozark. I'm a retired telecom technician from AT&T, former president of the Communication Workers of America Local 6312, and a trustee of the Springfield Labor Council, cabinet member of the United Way of the Ozarks. And I want everyone to know that I will work very hard to create an economy that works for all of us. I spoke last time 2 years ago on the fact that we needed to bring jobs to the community. I also heard the commissioners talking about that, and that is one of the things that I will fight very hard for, to make sure that we get more jobs and more creative jobs here that pay equal pay for equal work, and that we need to protect our local jobs so we can get people to buy locally and create a bigger tax base for this community. I want to make sure that college is affordable, help relieve student debt. We need to ensure that we have access to quality, affordable health care, support programs that help seniors and people with disabilities so they can live independently. Also pass life-saving prescription drug monitoring program, which has not been done. We're the only state in the union that doesn't have one, and I would like to see that done.
All right, we'll start with Mr. Morris. How will you make sure you vote according to your constituents' desires if elected?
Thank you. That's a great question. You know, I've done surveys the last 2 years, and so I would be doing a survey again this coming year. So I think it's really important to do more listening than talking. I think that I'm very good at listening to people and communicating. I know up in Jefferson City, every email, every phone call, every letter, some of them are very nice, and we respond to every one of them quickly. We make a practice to make sure that we do communicate with everyone, and so I think that's a great question, but I think I'm really good at working with people on both sides of the issues and helping people out. Constituent work is probably the most important thing I do, besides balancing the budget, and I love to help people. Right now we're working with a group here in Christian County that the Department of Revenue has said they may owe $250,000 in back sales tax that they didn't even know there was a law about. So I'm telling you what, the constituent work, listening to people, communicating to people, extremely important.
Mr. Billedo?
Same question.
Same question.
Well, my time with the communication industry, working with customers and the company on a regular basis for over 35 years, I know how to get problems solved and how to get issues fixed. And I also was president of Local 6312, which I had 400 members, and we had issues that came up. I took those issues and worked with the company and worked with the people to get almost all of them resolved. I don't have a problem working with people. I don't have a problem listening to people, because there's always two sides. Working with the United Way of the Ozarks, I saw how devastating issues can come up, and health issues can be a problem for families, and a lot of them are living in poverty, and we need to be able to deal with that and work with that, and I feel like that I can do that with my experience.
Mr. Debbaut?
Since I'm the youngster on the dais tonight, I'd like to talk about technology. I'm the youngest one. Hard to believe, right? It's nice to see so many young people here tonight as well. I think almost everyone has access to email and to websites. If you don't, the public library does have that. To have a website where people can directly communicate with their representative, I think is, in this environment, is certainly necessary and essential. We should go ahead and have that sort of thing. You're not hearing me very well? This is better. I should have a website as your representative where you can post comments, where you can request a call, request a service, that sort of thing, and then do mass communication with an early mailing in my tenure as a representative to let everyone know how to get a hold of that. So you can communicate with me that way. And I can answer questions and try and do my best to serve the district.
All right, we're going to go over to Mr. Billedo. we will allow some rebuttals here, but we're gonna kind of limit them depending on when it's really necessary, because I have a very large stack of questions here from the audience that I really want to try to get through. So if you do have a rebuttal after everyone has gone, you may just kind of give me a nod. Otherwise, we might kind of skip that process. So next question. 27 states are right to work. 6 of the 8 states that joined Missouri are right to work. What impact do you see if Missouri became right to work?
Well, working with the union and knowing in the past what right to work does, right to work lowers wages tremendously. It also lowers benefits, it lowers pensions, it lowers everything. The people don't have the disposable income in those right to work states. You're right, look at Kansas. If it was so great in Kansas, why would their legislator be almost bankrupt, or schools almost closing? And when you get past the first city out of Kansas City, you have nothing but just farmland. It's just open land. If it was so great, that state ought to be so populated with manufacturing and businesses that it would just be unphenomenal how great they would be. But instead, they're almost broke. So right now, Missouri is doing well. We have a right to work. We have our wage laws, and I would like to see that stay in place so that people can make a living wage.
We're still on down to Mr. Debbaut.
Jim, I could not agree with you more on all of your points. I'd like to make especially the point that right to work not only lowers wages, but it effectively tries to keep people from organizing. And you know, the common man needs the right to organize together against management. You have to have that. That managed to build the middle class in this country from the earliest days. Otherwise, people would be working for minimum wage on a job, would working 16 hours a day, and their children would be working too. All those were fixed by people organizing into unions and saying, we've had enough. I think right to work will be devastating to the state of Missouri, and I could not, I'll do everything I can to work against it.
Mr. Morris.
Okay, I tell you what, I respect what they said. I mean, you can read articles all over the place. You can look on the internet and you can find positive things like what these two gentlemen have said, and then opposite, just exactly the opposite. So I will tell you that we have attempted to get right to work passed the last 2 years. It's not a priority to me, but I do think it's important. 13% of our workers in the state of Missouri are union. My dad was a union person. He worked for 30 years for the Colonial Bread Company. When they struck the third time, when the young guys came in and they struck the third time and the older guys didn't want to strike, they were told that they would be moving to Arkansas if they struck that third time. The younger people didn't believe it, and they struck and they moved to Arkansas. Right after that, Colonial Bread moved first, and then Wholesome and Tasty moved. So we lost all 3 of our bread factories, all in a matter of 1 year from that time. And I really felt like the unions let those people down. I think the unions do some good things, and I think they do some bad things. But I don't agree with the fact that the 6 border states are right to work. There's going to be the 26th state is going to come on as a right to work state this next year. I'm not calling Missouri a right to work state, but there's another state that looks like they're going to pass it, so it's going to be 26. So it looks like it's pretty divided between the country as to whether it's right to work or not right to work. I could live with it, I can live without it. I'm not going to make that my priority. I've got a lot more priorities that I want to work on, but certainly if it comes up, I'm going to try to work with all people to make it work out the best for everybody.
Mr. Debbaut.
As a brief rebuttal to that, may I encourage all of you to go to the internet and find out the devastating terror that has happened to states with right to work, how their education system goes down, their healthcare system, workers' rights. You know, it shouldn't be that people should have to cave into management if they're going to move states. Maybe they could work together better as unions, but I think that it's important that you all know, do your research and find out about that, and please vote no on right to work.
Mr. Morris, go ahead.
Yes, just today, October 27th, Heartland Institute, which is a nonpartisan affiliated company that does research on both sides. They're not supposed to be pro or against anything. They did research, and that's not what their research found out. So if you want their article, be sure and get it from me, or go online and look up the Heartland Institute report from today, and they will tell you that the salaries go up, exactly the opposite of what Bob said, and so I respectfully disagree.
Mr. Billedo, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, Lynn's right, it was salaries. Most union people are not salaried. Only ones that their pay goes up is the management. The workers get beat down. They are told you'll work longer hours for less money. They've even, here in this state, we even had one representative that tried to lower the weight or the age so kids could work when they were under 13. So, yes, they would like to roll it back so they can do that.
It's just not income for salaries. It's more jobs. Those 6 states around our bordering states around Missouri, and the states that are right to work have more jobs than Missouri. We're not bringing jobs into this state, and it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons is because we are not a right to work state. And there is articles after articles, so we can find 10 against and we can find 10 that's for. That's why it's so controversial.
Mr. Debbaut.
Before you read what the Heartland Institute says, look up who they are first, and then read what they have to say.
Okay, let's move on. Mr. Debbaut, keep the microphone. Oh, you good?
No.
Okay. This was actually sent to one, or written out for one specific person, but I'm going to ask it to all of you, starting with Mr. Debbaut. What accomplishments or philanthropic endeavors are you most proud of being a part of in Christian County?
In Christian County?
Specifically in Christian County.
Philanthropic endeavors here. I've kept my mortgage paid for. I've lived here for 4 years. I haven't engaged in anything in the community other than being a good neighbor and voting and paying taxes.
Mr. Morris?
Well, I tell you what, our roots grow deep. My wife graduated from Ozark High School, so she's lived here longer than I have, but I've lived here 40 plus years. And so my company, Family Pharmacy, has been very generous over the time. And so we give to many, many causes, including veterans. We're just getting ready to kick off Shoebox for Veterans. So I'm not talking about hundreds of dollars. I'm talking about $500, $1,000, $5,000. We help this community, and we have for 40 years, long before I ever got involved in politics, even long before I was on the Ozark School Board for 6 years. We have invested in this community even long before our children was raised. So we're very proud of what we do for this whole area, not just Ozark, but all the county. So, and we also provide 300 jobs for people, so we pay a lot of taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Billedo.
Okay, in the time that I've lived here, we were involved with the Mighty Mite program years ago when no one else wanted to take it. We worked with a lot of young kids and worked with them through the Mighty Mites. Then the school took that program over, and they started a wrestling program at the school. My wife and I hauled kids all over the country so they could participate in wrestling to get better, so we could have a better program here at this school. We have grandkids that participate in school, and we go and follow them around a lot. I represented all the telecom people here in this area that work for CenturyLink. All of them in this area, I've represented them and helped them try to provide some of the best service that in the telecommunications industry that we could for this area. So that's what all I've done in this community, and plus paid my taxes, try to buy locally, my cars, my trucks. As much of that as I can, I try to buy locally. And my wife works here. She works locally. She has for a long time. And we try to buy everything we can here.
Hey, Billy, can I add one more thing? Because I think it was good that Jim started the Mighty Mite program in Ozark. I too started the basketball program many, many years ago, from grades 1 through grade 6, both boys and girls. And we had a great program because we had seniors that collected the money when people came in, and then we had junior high kids that were scorekeepers, and then we had high school kids that were the referees. And then we even went further because we did that for boys and girls 1 through 6, and then when the boys and girls didn't make the junior high team, because it's pretty traumatic, you get cut. One of the first times you get cut, I was actually the coach and took them, the boys that didn't make the team, and allowed them to still play 2 more years.
Okay, in an effort of fairness, Mr. Debbaut or Mr. Billedo,
I'm just getting tickled and watching Zane wanting to hit that buzzer.
He does want to.
Which would be inappropriate in a discussion about basketball. And
Okay, Mr. Morris, we're going to start you with this question. I have a handful of questions here concerning your 2015 disciplinary action from the Missouri Board of Pharmacy. I'm just going to read one of them. You call yourself a trusted community servant, and yet according to the Missouri Board of Pharmacy, you have violated professional trust and confidence under Missouri law. You are currently under probation and will remain for 2 more years. Why should we vote for you?
Well, I tell you what, I think that when you're looking at the headlines, it looks one way, but I can easily explain that. In the world of pharmacy, I've had 3 times in 40 years that we've had problems. The first 2 was pharmacists that didn't do the right thing and either lost their license or really had something happen to them. But as the owner of the pharmacy, the owner of this company, I am always responsible. I'm responsible for everything, and I'm held accountable for everything that happens. And I understand that, and I accept that. This last time, it's a disagreement with the State Board of Pharmacy because we had a protocol that a doctor and I had set up to help employees who were sick and wanted to stay at work. And we had 2 investigations that went on. The first investigation, the State Board and the Medical Association said, not a problem, just don't do it again. Then it came back later. Don't know whether that was a political reason or what the problem was, but it came back again, and so that's why we're on probation. I've had people say, well, I'm not able to practice pharmacy. Well, let me tell you what, I just got through practicing at Sparta yesterday and Ozark the day before. I'm still taking calls. I took a 3:30 a.m. call on a dying hospice patient last Wednesday night. I took a call last night at 9 o'clock for another patient, so I'm still on call. I'm still doing everything that I've done. And we'll just move on. We'll learn from that, and we will move on. I think it has nothing to do. I'm very proud of my company. I'm very proud of my employees. And if I made a mistake, I accept that mistake, but we will not do it again.
Mr. Billedo and Mr. Debbaut, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this if you want as well.
Well, I believe that if you're going to be a state representative, you need to know the laws and you need to abide by the laws. And if you can't abide by them, then I don't think you need to be representing me and probably any of us. Because to me, that's part of being a legislator, is to be able to abide by the law and know the law. If you're going to make the laws, you need to be able to follow.
Mr. Debbaut.
then the only question I had on this, you said your employees wanted to continue to work and they need a prescription to heal their sickness. What kind of sick pay do they get?
They have sick days, so if they want to use a sick day, they can use a sick day, but a lot of the people that have sick days want to use them as vacation days. That's why they don't want to miss work. I want to point out something else, too. You didn't go far enough. Some of the people up here that's against me didn't go far enough. In my 40 years of practice, just owning my store, I have been voted as the Pharmacist of the Year. I'm not talking about state pharmacists. I'm talking about national pharmacists. Won many state awards, myself, as well as the company, and I'm very proud of my accomplishments.
I forgot, I apologize. When it comes to balancing the budget, specifically, what areas in the state do you think need cut and what needs more funding?
Well, I think already we do have a balanced budget amendment, which requires us to do that, so I think that is important. I see so many needs in the state, I don't know what could be cut. We need more education funding, we obviously need more Medicaid funding, we need infrastructure funding. I think that in some ways, when people have so little money in their pocket, it's hard to generate any tax revenue. And part of that is that 1 in 5 Missouri children lives in poverty, below the poverty level. And that needs to be addressed. To things we can cut, I don't see anything in looking at the budget that is that unnecessary. Can it be shifted around? Maybe so. And that's something that I would do my best to build consensus with my Republican and Democratic colleagues to find out what we could keep within the balanced budget, but to improve the social services, to improve educational funding, and to make educational funding equal. Interesting statistic. The lottery says they provide $315 million to education. The education budget says there's $167 million. Where did the other $150 million go? I know no one knows that. But.
So what was the question again? You just threw me off there.
No, when it comes to balancing the budget, specifically what areas in the state need cut and what needs more funding?
And that's a great question too. So when I started 4 years ago, our budget was over $24 billion. Each year we've grown our budget over $1 billion. And if you can just imagine that the only thing by Constitution that we have to do is to provide the governor a budget, a balanced budget. We're one of 10 states that, thank goodness, has a balanced budget in their Constitution, so that's important. But the problem is we've grown from 24 billion to 27.3 billion. That's our operating budget right now. And we still have more hands out than we can help. It's a sad thing. It's not fun to go up there and know that we don't have unlimited money. We have a very limited amount of money that we can do. So it is a hard job trying to figure out how you delegate different amounts of money to different groups. But I do know that according to experts, not Republicans or Democrats, but independent people, that the school formula will be balanced and funded in full in the next 2 years because of the way we've changed the formula. And if it works, give Senator Watson the kudos because that was his idea, and I think it will work. And we do want to balance and finance the school formula 100%. So it wasn't changed during my time, it was changed before my time, and we're doing the best we can, but we'll get there. So,
Mr. Billedo.
Well, the budget for the school system was set up many years ago, and they decided if you can't make the budget, well, we'll just cut the budget. And that's what they've been done up there to make their budget balance. Now, I don't agree with that because this year they sent a balanced budget to the governor. And then after the governor approved it, then they came back and decided to give some special interest tax cuts. And that blew their budget out. And the governor had no choice but to go to the school funding and pull the money out. So if they want to make money and they want to create money and they want to have money, you got to quit giving the special interest their part of it whenever you send a balanced budget to the governor. If you're going to send a budget to the governor that says the school's going to get X number of dollars, then that's the way it should be. You shouldn't go back and pass a bill that says, oh, well, now that we give that budget, we'll give our friends over here some money too. You got to figure that all into the budget, and they didn't do that this year.
I don't think that's right at all. Here's how what I heard, and this is several years ago, when they changed the formula, it was because the funding formula was changed because everyone thought that the lottery was going to be the panacea that would provide all this money for education. It did not happen. It has never materialized as much as they thought it would. And so that's the problem. But now we've changed the formula back to the original formula. And if we don't have another recession, we'll be okay. And we will definitely be able to fund education 100% within the budget constraints that we have.
The voters mandated that the lottery money should all go to education. And what I've heard is the legislatures kind of dink around with it enough so they kind of take some out here and out there for special projects. In Georgia, they mandated that it would all go for that. Georgia, when they mandated that, was the same size as Missouri, had 10 representatives in Congress. Now Georgia has 14 representatives and we have 8. Why is that? Because we have a drain of people leaving here that can't find good jobs. If you stay a 3-point average in Georgia, you can go to college for free there because of the lottery money. We could do that same thing here. The last thing I want to say is, as far as a formula goes, throw the formula out and give equally money to every student in the state, no matter where they live.
All right, we're going to start with the first question. It's going to start with you, Mr. Morris. This question says, I would like to ask Mr. Morris, who is representing Christian County, why his donations come from corporations and persons not residing within his district. As for Mr. Billedo and Debbaut, just where are your donation monies coming from? So, Mr. Morris.
My donations come from everywhere. I have endorsements from the Right to Life people, the NRA people. I've got 6 different endorsements from education people, from the state teachers associations to the superintendents to the principals to the special educators. I've got the Missouri Chamber. I've got National Federation of Independent Business. Just today, I got the realtors. I've got nurses. I've got anesthetists. I've got pharmacists. I've got all these different endorsements. In fact, I think I've got probably 14, 15, 16. I lose track of how many endorsements I have. So when you serve on committees and you do certain things, you're going to get people that's paying attention to you from everywhere. I fund mine. I probably put in $60,000. It's not about money to me. I gave $29,000 out of my $35,000 salary last year in December to the preservation of the Capitol. You can check that out, and I'm not doing anything for money, but my endorsements and my money comes from everywhere. Lots of friends, but I don't have to ask people for money. They just send me money if they think I'm doing a good job. So,
Mr. Billedo.
Most of mine comes locally from just independent people that live in the county. I have received some from CWA, Communication Workers of America, which is a company that I work for. It's a labor union. And I've also received some from the IBEW and a little bit from the Teamsters. But most of my money has came totally from the people locally in this county that want to see somebody go to Jeff City and represent them, and not all the people across the state that can basically buy their votes by giving donations.
Mr. Debbaut.
I spent $99 on 1,000 cards. You'll find some of them out there on the table, and I'm buying 6 yard signs because that's all I can afford. I'm my own financier. And I feel that campaign finance reform should be essential because we can't allow votes to be bought. Money is not speech. Money is money. Speech is speech. And our founders wanted free speech for everybody. Free speech for everybody means equal speech for everybody, not speech that you can buy more of. You're not entitled to more speech than I am because you have more money than I do.
I just want to comment about Jim's funding. You can check the ethics report anytime. Anyone can go and check it.
I got mine here if anybody wants to look at it.
82% of every dollar is given by unions of some sort. Okay, so that's a special interest group. So when you're accusing me of being funded by special interest groups, 2 years ago it was over 90% funded by special interest group unions. So every special interest group is important, and that's what it says.
Mr. Billedo, would you like to respond?
Yeah, the reports.
Yeah, we need, like I said, I have got some money from unions. I'm not denying that. I'm a labor guy.
82%.
I believe, no, not this year, Lynn. Mine's all come from mostly locally. So your numbers are wrong there, but like some of the others too. But anyhow, I do believe that we do need to get some reform in the money that's given, and we need to control the amount of money that's given by individuals each time that there's for the primary and for the general election.
Mr. Debbaut.
Isn't it interesting, my friends, how the Democrats and the Republicans always have the same thing to say to each other? There's the blue raspberry, there's the red raspberry. In this election, you have the choice to have pistachio. I plan to bring ethics to my campaign, and I will not accept any special interest money from anybody. I'll try and raise money on the internet for my next campaign if necessary, if you give me the opportunity to work there. But we need to take money out of politics.
Okay, we're going to move on. We're already over time, but I'm going to try to squeeze in a few more questions. This next one, I think we're starting with Billedo. This rebuttals is confusing me, but we're going to start with Mr. Billedo. What is your view on Amendment 4, which is Shall the Constitution be amended to prohibit a new state or local sales use tax or other similar tax on any service or transaction that was not subject to a sales use or similar tax as of January 1st, 2015?
Well, I think when we go to amending our Constitution, it should be something very, very important. And I think that our legislators need to quit trying to promote their issues and their agenda through amendments, and I would not vote for that amendment. And it's just like the right to farm. All that did was give the foreign countries the ability to come in and buy our land, and it should have been legislated instead of put to the people for them to look at. And our representative voted for that bill to sell our farmland to China.
Mr. Debbaut.
I agree somewhat with what Jim said. I don't think that the amendment as it is, that we see everything that's contained within it. And that's similar to a couple of other amendments that are on the ballot. They can't have you stand in line to read everything, and not everybody would read everything. And do they publish all of it so you can read in advance? No. There are things hidden in this that I would cause me to vote against this. Matter of fact, of all the amendments, I think only Amendment 1 I would vote for.
Mr. Morris.
I guess I'm the odd man out again, so I'll tell you why that you should vote yes to get a no vote on Amendment 4. If you want to pay a sales tax on every service that you receive for the rest of your life, then vote no on it, okay? But if you don't want to pay a sales tax on services, because it's estimated that right now, with most counties have a sales tax between 8 and 10%. So if you're going to now add sales tax on services that have never been done before, now you're going to increase your total tax to up to 15 to 20 cents on every purchase that you make. I don't think you want that. I don't think you can afford that. And the reason why we put it on, I agree. The only thing I agree with Jim on is the fact that we need to be very careful about messing with the Constitution, and we're sometimes, not just what I've done in the last 4 years, but what I've seen them do in the past, we need to leave the Constitution alone as much as we can. But the problem is that we have had, for 8 years with the government that we've had, the Department of Revenue has been going around collecting tax on things that never existed before on services, and we cannot afford that. There is a business in Christian County right now that we met with the Department of Revenue. Senator Watson and Jared Taylor and I met this week at the accountant's office in Springfield, where the Department of Revenue is trying to go back 3 years to collect a sales tax for a 1994 Supreme Court ruling, and they don't know anything about it. I guarantee you that every organization that belongs to that group has not been collecting a sales tax, and they've been told they owe $250,000 in back sales tax, interest, and penalties. Folks, that's not the way. You're talking about economic development. You're not going to provide economic development if you're treat businesses like that. This would bankrupt this business, and that's why individually we have to pass these bills, but collectively we have to pass this amendment.
Okay, Mr. Billedo, we'll start this question with you. We're just going to do 1 minute answers on this one. Name one thing you respect about each of your opponents.
Well, I respect the fact that Lynn has got a business and he's been able to stay in business for as long as he has. I just absolutely disagree with him on about 98% of these things he does as a legislator. And the number one thing is his past with writing prescriptions, violating the law. I don't agree with that.
Name one thing.
Oh, and I really don't know much about
What's his name?
Robert over here. I've had a conversation or two with him. And matter of fact, 2 years ago, him and I had a conversation at his house. But I really don't know a lot about him. But if he's an author and he's wrote some books and he's done some things like that, I got to respect a guy that can sit down and write a book and get people to buy it.
That's the hard part.
Okay, Mr. Debbaut.
Mr. Billedo spent a number of years working for the unions and organizing working people and helping them, and for that I have a great deal of respect for him, for his organization with working people and his work in that. And as he said about Mr. Morris, obviously an important business to Christian County that provides a lot of jobs here, provides a lot of revenue, and hats off to him and his family for all the years that they've spent doing that.
Mr. Morris.
Well, I would tell you probably the most that comes to my mind would be to thank both of these gentlemen for taking the challenge to run. It takes a lot of courage, it takes a lot of stamina, it takes a lot of positive energy to run a race and to actually want to run a race. And so I applaud both of them for that.
All right, we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're already 15 minutes late. I apologize to the audience if I did not get to your question. I would assume that all of these gentlemen will be available afterwards, or I'm sure you can find them anytime between now and the election via email or Facebook or telephone to ask your questions. So I apologize. There's quite a stack I still did not get to. I will now give you all an opportunity to ask one opponent one question if any of you have a question prepared that you would like to do that with. Anyone? Mr. Debbaut.
Well, here's one for you, my friend, as the incumbent. I've received in the mail, as I'm sure all of you had, slick, glossy, beautiful, graphically designed flyers that use the word fight, that you're fighting for education, you're fighting for our seniors and all of that. So let me ask you a question. You are a member of a veto-proof majority in the House of Representatives. We have failing schools, we have low funding on that, we have prescription drug prices that are through the roof, that somehow no one will talk about the cost of medicine as being the driving force in what's creating the health insurance crisis in this country. Who exactly are you fighting?
I think that's a great question. You know, 4 times in the first 3 years I voted against my party for bad education bills. I got kicked off a whip team because as a freshman I was a whip, which is a tremendous honor, and I got kicked off because I voted against my own party's bad education bills that would have brought charter schools all the way into Greene County that would have affected Christian County over time. I'm not afraid to vote against my party. I voted against the first tax cut in almost 95 years when there's going to only be a tax cut for businesses like mine. I voted against it. I led 14 other people. Jeff Messenger is one of them that voted against the party that killed that bill. I'm proud to have voted for the bill that provided the first tax cut in 93, 95 years that we'll see next year in 2017 as long as our economy grows $150 million. Now, if we have time about the prescription monitoring bill, you know I'm a pharmacist. I voted for that bill 3 times, voted against it 1 time. Here's the problem. It's got to be real time. The bill that they tried to propose last year is the same bill they proposed for 4 years in a row, and it's a $40 million price tag. It's not real time. It's going to dump information every 5 days. Anybody's going to do something wrong is going to get it done before 5 days. It's not going to work. It's got to be real time. Like my company, we have real time. You can go to Sparta and get an oxycodone prescription and come to Ozark 30 minutes later, and we will stop you, and we will call the police every time. So it's got to be real time. Once it gets real time and we take care of the confidentiality problem and all the HIPAA information, then maybe we can get a program passed. But right now we have 1 senator in the Senate that kills the bill every year. It doesn't matter what the other 63 other people think. It doesn't matter what the other 33 senators think. 1 man kills the bill.
Mr. Morris, do you have a question you want to ask one of your opponents? Mr. Billedo, did you?
No.
All right, we will then...
Can I follow up on that just for a brief question? On the prescription thing?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. We're so over right now on time. Mr. Billedo, we'll go ahead and do our closing remarks, and we'll start with you and go in reverse order.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I hope we have answered some questions for y'all. I believe that I know that I want to be your representative, and I will be honest, fair. I will listen to all of you. It doesn't make me any difference what your political views are, what your religion is. I want to work for you guys. And y'all are members of the community, and I want you to know that you'll be able to call me at any time. In my past, anybody could call me anytime, night or day. If I had my phone available and I was awake, I'd talk to you. So feel free to give me a call anytime, and I want to be your representative, and I appreciate your vote come November.
I do appreciate everyone for being here tonight and spending the time. And I think this election is very important. I think every election we have in the state and in the country and the county is extremely important. So I would consider everyone should pray for our country and pray for our state and county. I think the difference is, and I understand what these gentlemen are saying, but I would tell you it's differences between night and day. So if you like night, then I think you need to vote for one of these two guys. If you want daylight and you want communication, you want someone that's been proven. I won by 80 to 20%, widest margin in the state 2 years ago against my opponent. I expect to win a big margin again this year. So I've got proven experience. The problem up in Jefferson City, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you that if we would elect someone else that's not in a majority right now, they would have no say-so whatsoever. Absolutely could not represent this county. I'm not saying it's right, but it's that way it is. It is. You go up there and see there's 40-some Democrats, 115 Republicans, and you're not going to get anything out of committee. Only to get things out of committees when I helped the suicide prevention bill, the senior citizen farmers market bill. Those were Democrats' ideas. They were great ideas. And I'm the one that sponsored and brought the Democrat co-sponsor right by me, and we got those bills passed out of the House, 142 votes. There's only 115 Republicans, so every Democrat voted for that bill. So I would just tell you there's a lot of contrast between the people. I think there's a lot of hatred up here between the people too, and I just appreciate everyone's support 2 years ago, and I'm going to rest on my 40 years of service to this community. Thank you very much.
I'm insulted. Night and day? I think I'm an honorable man. I think you're an honorable man. I would never say that you vote for night, and that you would be a person of night. I'm insulted by that.
So you're wrong.
You said it's night and day. You want night, vote for these guys. Night is darkness. Night is uncertainty. Day is light and sunshine. Find your way very easily. My first action as your state representative will be to find a Republican that I could work with and try to pass a school funding bill that funds the schools equally. Wherever the kids live, gives an equal amount of money to every school. The second one that I'll work on is getting a cap in the state of Missouri on prescription drug prices so seniors are not choosing between food and drugs. And those are two things we need to work on right off the bat. If I can get that done in my first 2 years, I think I'll have accomplished a lot, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for the opportunity tonight.